all, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the lands of the Wurundjeri people today. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, as well as any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here. We're visiting from Kaurna country, also known as Adelaide, and we're here to talk about a project, on Gunditjmara country. My name's Tom Hamper. I'm an associate at Phillips Pilkington Architects. I first started working on this project probably when I was about a year out of uni, and it's a project that's really spanned my development since that time, really up until now. It's a project that continues, as we'll sort of see. I've got to do that one too. As mentioned, this project's on Gunditjmara country, southwestern Victoria, just over the border from South Australia, so over the border to us, obviously. So it's a regional project, regional site. It's a diverse area, diverse landscape. It's got a lot of, it's got a rich history, geological, biological, cultural history. It also has a more recent and more challenging history. So the site for the project is just outside Haywood. It's on land that was taken in the 1800s for use as a mission, and has since been returned back to the Gunditjmara people. The actual building site is in the Yellow Bee area over near the mission. It's a site that's got a tangible history, so both pre and post invasion. So the archaeological research that was done there has shown that this was an important gathering place for the Gunditjmara people. Then obviously also the mission history there as well. And one of the key aspects of the project was to facilitate the return of cultural artefacts back to country. So this is some photos from Melbourne Museum, where a lot of those artefacts are currently kept, and a big part of the project was getting material back from Melbourne Museum, sorry. We're at Melbourne Uni. There is a building precedent at the site in this area. So the Gunditjmara people did build, as you can see, stone and timber, curvilinear forms, and that comes out in the development of the plan. So in plan, the building anchored at either end by the keeping place on the left, an elders room on the right, and the business centre function really connecting the two in the centre, offices, meeting rooms, storage, toilets, those sorts of things in that central block. So as we'll go through the slides, we'll notice that the building is half of this plan. So we're really talking about stage one in this presentation. Stage two, which is sort of in the works at the moment, will complete the plan. And so then the kind of development of that plan into a 3D form, stone, timber, curvilinear forms. There's obvious references there to the traditional structures of the Gunditjmara people, but then obviously more contemporary representation of that. You've got the keeping place shown in section there, and then in the image, the keeping place in the foreground, and the business centre function, business centre part of the building in the background. So that's the plan snapshot of this stage, and then a conceptual section showing the relationship between those two buildings, with the keeping place really being the kind of stronger element. And again, so some views of the building from different aspects. Obviously, with the keeping place being quite prominent, materials, stone and timber, minimal steel, and elements such as the rock in the left-hand image, which is lava flow rock from nearby that was collected by some of the rangers from Gunditj Mirring and used on the site. Sustainability was a really key aspect of the project, so a quote from the CEO of Gunditj Mirring, Damien Bell, obviously they'd lived on this land for thousands of years and lived sustainably. It was really important that the building had to be part of that process of being sustainable on country. So practically that meant lots of solar panels. So it's a 100 kilowatt solar array backed up with a battery storage system as well that powers the building, which is completely off grid. And you can see the photovoltaic array in the background, the building in the foreground there. Materials, obviously important. I've mentioned stone and timber, but timber is the main material in the building. Most of the structure where we could use timber, we use timber, and steel just supporting the structure. Things like selection of finishes and other materials, low VOC materials, local materials. The large flat roof collects all of the water for the building in the water tanks, so there's no mains water supply to the building. That's heated by a solar hot water unit. All the waste disposal is on site, and things like the skylights on the main roof that provide natural daylight into the internal spaces. Okay, all right. Passive design was obviously important in the project. That's a bit of a summary of the environmental performance of the building. And I guess quickly just some of the things that I've learned through the project. I'm obviously here as an emerging architect. It's a small building, but it's a fairly complex building. And it was a great learning opportunity to work through some of these details that you just wouldn't see on other projects. Things like turning the conceptual section there for the keeping place into details that then you're obviously collaborating with engineers, services, structural, and then working with the builder on site. How do you actually install elements such as the timber sticks on the outside? COVID was a big theme during this project. We started on site at the start of 2020. The borders shut about 3 months into the project, and that was a huge learning curve just in terms of collaboration and relationships, both with the builder, the client, and the engineers, not being able to come across the border basically for most of the project.
Thanks, Tom. That's time.
Yeah.
So